Hi, it's Corrine. Thanks so much for stopping by. I'm sharing 3 cards that I made today. I'm using Altenew's Flutter and Bloom stamp and stencil. I also pulled out a die cut or a die that I've had in my stash for a really long time. It's the Simon Says Stamp Artwork grid plate, and I'll be sure to link those down in the description box. If for some reason the Simon Says Stamp grid plate is not available, I know Gina K has one similar. Here you can see that this is a large stamp set that you get. The inspiration guide and the instructions that they provide are beautiful. They give you ideas of Altenew inks to use. I do not own a lot of the Altenew inks. I do have several of the cubes, and I think I have like 5 of the large ink pads. But after working with those today, I definitely want to get more of them. They blended beautifully. So I pulled out the ink cubes that I have. I pulled out a few of the orange ones, but I ended up going mostly with Autumn Blaze. I did pull out Firebrick and Orange Cream as well, because I thought I would do the 3 different colors, but like I've mentioned, I mostly used Autumn Blaze. So as I was stenciling, I went through the stencils, how they recommend, 1, 2, 3, and I think there's 6. There's, I believe, 7 actually, 7 stencils for these flowers. I decided once it all dried back and I could see the final product, that one of my flower layers were a little lighter than what I had wanted. So it's very simple to put your stencil back in place and just give it another coat. I tend to do that a lot. If it dries back and it's maybe not the variation that you wanted, or it's a little too light, I just go back and add another coat to it. It's very easy to do. They make it simple to put back in place. So I'm just using a small blending brush. For the center of the flowers, I use Buttercup by Concord and Ninth. I also pulled out Altenew's Espresso, and this is a light brown. I wanted to darken up just the center of the flowers just to give it that variation and depth, and it turned out beautiful. So I'm just lightly going over that. I'm working on a 9x12 Altenew grip mat, which is placed on a 9x12 Simon Says Stamp glass mat. It's easy to clean and it holds everything in place. If you don't own one, you can very easily just tape your paper onto your craft mat. I'm working on 80-pound hammer mill cardstock, and I use 100-pound hammer mill for my card base. This blue that I used is, I think it's pronounced Galactic Stream. It's the Altenew Crisp dye ink. It's the first time that I used it. I remembered that I had that and I haven't tried it. I did pull out other lighter blues, but I went with the darkest one that I had. So pretty, and it just blended perfectly. So after I finished stenciling, I had left my stamp in the MISTI because I do like having that black bold outline for my flowers using VersaFine Claire Nocturne ink, and I just use the transparency film as a practice sheet to, after doing all that work of stenciling, you want to make sure that it's lined up, or otherwise you get that ghosting look. So once I tested it on the transparency, I just removed the transparency and then stamped onto my stencil, which turned out perfect. And then I just set that aside to dry. So here's the Simon Says Stamp Artwork Grid Die. I've had this for a very long time. I've used it in the past. Love it. I decided I wanted to cut this out, and as I was putting it on my paper, I realized I could get 2 cards out of it because I didn't want my entire card front to be all the flowers anyways. I do like that look, but that's not what I was looking for today. And as I looked at it, I decided, you know, if I could get 2 cards out of it, that would be nice. So I taped everything in place. Really, there's no need to do that. You'll see me tape the back of it, trying to keep it all together. There was really no need to do that, and I didn't do that on the second card, I don't believe. So as you can see, that in order for me to get the flowers where I wanted, I had to cut part of the right side of the card panel off. No problem, because there was no stenciling on that, so I'm just going to add white matching cardstock on the finished card. I had to do the same thing on this second one. It wasn't quite large enough. And this cuts out just a little bit smaller than an A2 sized card. So I cut that out. I also, again, I'm using 80-pound hammer mill cardstock. I cut out several more layers of 80-pound hammer mill. That way I could stack them, which I'll show you here in a moment. So I wanted to work on a card front. I wasn't sure what size card I was going to make at this time, so I just cut out an A2 card front. I cut 2 of them out with black cardstock, and I placed on a white piece of paper because I'm working on a black craft mat. I thought a little scrap piece of paper would be easier for filming to see. So here's my frame, my negative piece, and I'm just kind of taping that down because I'm going to be using that as a template to put those pieces back in to inlay them onto the card front. So as you can see to the right, I did cut out several other pieces. I am going to glue 3 of them together using Barely Art glue. I'll glue 3 of them and then glue the stencil to the top of it. So it gives it a great amount of dimension that I can add to my front of my card. So off camera, I glued them all together, gave them a minute to dry, and as you can see, it gives it like a chipboard look. Turned out really pretty. And when you're using that as a template, you can accidentally, if you get any extra glue, it will accidentally glue that piece down. So as you put each piece in, you want to lift up your template to make sure that you didn't inadvertently glue it down. So I'll continue to put all the pieces back. Like I had mentioned earlier, I did have to cut part of the right side off, but as you can see, there's no stenciling on it, so I just glued 4 pieces of the cardstock together. Here I'm just adding the last piece, and then when I pull that template off, it leaves that black card base. So pretty. I'm working on a regular craft mat that I turned into a magnetic mat, and I love it. If you're interested in that, I'll link a video below showing how I did that. Pulled out some Concord and Ninth honeycomb cardstock. I'm going to cut the same thing out. I'm not going to use the squares, I'm just going to use the frame. Another way you could do it is just cut like I did, because this is for the second card. You could cut just a matting like I did for the first card in black. You could have done that with honeycomb, but I wanted to use just the frame. I'll show you what I mean here in just a moment. So I will glue that down onto a black card base, or a matting layer rather. I'll glue that in place, and now I'm going to inlay my pieces on top. I did it the exact same way as I did the last card. However, I only did 3 layers, or was it 2 layers? Let me see here. I think I did 2 layers of the card, or no, I believe it was 3 layers. 3 layers of the cardstock, and then on top of that, the stenciled piece. Adding my last piece in, and on the right, just adding white cardstock. I wanted to leave a little bit of white space on the card. And now, as you can see, we have that really pretty yellow framing. So the very top right piece had a little bit of stenciling. Would anyone notice? Probably not, but to me, as you can see, the leaf at the top just kind of ends, and I did not like that. So I just took the piece, being that it wasn't big enough to actually place on top, because those are about 1 1/4 inch squares. it was a little bit shorter than 1 1/4. I just fussy cut it out. It was just a little piece, so it was very quick and easy. I'm using my stencil that was the frame that was stenciled as a guide where to put that little tip, and I just think it looks so much better than just being cut off there. So here's my 2 card panels. Whatever's easiest, you can do them. I just wanted to try both of them. And now I'm going to put them on a card base using some black cardstock. This is the lazy way of doing it, is scoring it first and then cutting it. The cards ended up being, I believe, 5.5 by 6 1/4. And I do like to finish the inside of my cards. If I don't know who the card is going to when I'm making it, then I will usually just finish it with cardstock on the inside. So when I am ready to send it to someone, depending on the occasion, I can stamp a sub-sentiment on the inside of the card. So for that one, I just added Buttercup. Now for this one, I wanted to add a matting to the back using that honeycomb, I believe it was, by Concord & Ninth. And I didn't want to waste the inside of it because it's just being used as a frame. So I used a Spellbinders rectangle die, cut the center of it out. I end up using that center for the inside of the card, but I also didn't want it to sag in any way. So I used the same rectangle die and cut out a piece of black cardstock that I'll add to the middle here in just a minute. Because Concord & Ninth's cardstock is thick, like I said, I didn't want it to sag, so I'll add that in just a moment. But first I'm making a white card base using 100-pound Hammermill cardstock, which you'll see in the end I changed my mind with, but as for now, I thought I was going to keep it on a white card base. So here's where I'm adding that centerpiece just to make sure it's completely even on the back. Adding a little bit of tape runner and wet glue, I will put my magnets to hold that in place so it doesn't move on me and I can center it. And being that I changed my mind on the white card base, I ripped that inside of that piece that I'm adhering down now. I take that apart as well to put it with my scraps. So here's my 2 finished cards at the moment. Couldn't get enough, so I decided to stencil that smaller cluster. They have it labeled as B, and they have the stencils labeled as well, so it's very easy to line up. I ink blended the exact same way that I did the other ones. I did use Distress Oxide on this one. I used Chip Sapphire. For the leaves, I used Grasshopper and Artichoke, I believe. And for the center of the flowers, I started out with Buttercup, but then I added a little bit of Spice Cider to the centers to deepen them up. These are all Concord & Ninth colors. And look how pretty that turned out. And I did add a little bit of black soot distress ink to the center as well to deepen them. So I'm using that same die, cutting this out. And on this one, I'm going to use the stenciled frame and glue 2 pieces of the cardstock together. So I glued 2 pieces of Hammermill 80-pound and then the stencil piece on top. So there's 3 total layers. So it's a little bit less dimension than the other ones. For this one, I wanted to use a gray card base, or card panel, I should say, matting piece. I pulled out Pebble from Concord & Ninth, added my stenciled frame on it, and now I'm just simply inlaying my pieces. So they have a nice little bit of dimension to them. This one I cut out the entire front of the card base so I didn't have to add white to the right hand panels like I did the other one. Or the other 2 cards rather. Sorry, I kind of had to get my head in that to make sure I'm lining that up nicely. Again, not wanting to waste any of my cardstock, that's why I cut a piece out, a main panel, instead of making it into a full card base. For my card base, I am using Hammermill 100-pound, and a little bit of Beacon Fabri-Tac glue, using that corner of my scoreboard to line up my card and get it centered. I decided to finish off the inside of this card. I stamped out that flower cluster just in the right-hand corner using mushroom ink, I believe, by Concord & 9. And then I stamped a sentiment that says, "Thanks for simply being you," being that this was going to be a thank you card. I like having thank you cards on hand. Stamped that, I think 2 different times, or maybe it was 3 with, yeah, it looks like 3 times with my VersaFine Claire Nocturne ink. I'm going to use my magnets, hold that in place, and glue that down. I put it on a piece of scrap paper because I wasn't sure if that black ink was dry yet, and I didn't want to accidentally get some on my card base. So here's the 3 cards. I need to decide now what I'm going to do for sentiments, but as I was looking at it, I didn't like the white card base. I really like the gray and I really like the black. So I do have that, I think, is it called Undo? I do have that stuff, but I'm always so scared to use it. If you've ever used it, can you let me know if it turns out okay? I'm always scared that it's going to run my ink or make a mess. So I just used my Cricut spatula and kind of ran it around the edges, and I was able to rip it off that card base. Same with the inside piece. I was able to take that off and I put that into my scrap pile to save for another project. Much happier with the black card base. And as you can see, I did add a piece of white cardstock on the inside to be able to stamp a sentiment when I give it away. I am going to heat emboss. I prepped my card stock with some anti-static powder, but I did that off my MISTI. I hate when that gets on that grip mat. I do have a grip mat in my MISTI, so I did that off using a scrap piece of paper to kind of cover up my MISTI. And I added some white fine detail embossing powder, and I used a Gina K Scripty stamp, I believe it's called. It has a coordinating die with it, but I don't end up using that on this project, but I wasn't sure. I thought I might use it. No worries. I just put it in, I save it. I save a lot of my pre-made sentiments, so it makes it nice when I go to make cards. If I don't feel like doing one, I can just grab from that. So I stamped out the large thanks. I do have the coordinating die for that as well. And I also stamped out "You're the Best Ever" using that little banner die that is a coordinating. And I'm just kind of seeing what I want to use. As you can see, I stamped some white with black ink, but I really liked the black shadow layer with the white embossing. So I do 2 of those to use on those 2 cards there. I also cut out extra of the shadow layers. So I have 2 layers of the black and then the embossed panel. So a total of 3 layers, and that gives it just enough thickness that it won't bend in the mail. It'll keep it nice and sturdy. So I'm just kind of looking, keeping my fingers out of the way by using my reverse tweezers. And I like that one up at the top right. Right in that white space is perfect. And then this one I thought looked best right in the center of my card, and I was really happy with how that turned out. And the last card, I did the same thing. I added the large thanks right to where there was that little gap in the flowers. I didn't want to cover too much of my flowers up. Pulled out these iridescent gems that I have, and they're the exact same, they're just smaller. I have small and medium. And then I pulled out the clear dewdrops that I love to use. I also pulled out iridescent dewdrops. What I end up going with, even though I kind of put some out, I end up going with the clear dewdrops on the thanks, the 2 different thanks cards. And on the gray card with the sentiment of "You're the Best Ever," the one I'm working on now, I used iridescent. And it may be hard to pick up in film or in the photos, but when you turn it in the light, they're really pretty. They pick up the light, and I think they add just enough to the card without being too much in your face with it. So here are the 3 cards. This was a lot of fun to make, and I do have another video coming up using this same stamp and stencil. I just had so much fun making them that I made several more, and I was inspired by this die to use another Simon Says stamp die, so you'll see that in a video coming soon. Here I'm just giving you a closer look at those gems, the inside of the card, and again on the 2 thanks cards I used the clear dewdrops, which are some of my favorite. I love how they pick up the color behind it. So I hope you've enjoyed today's process. Thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you'll consider giving this a thumbs up, subscribing to my channel, and you can find me on Facebook and Instagram under CorenesCreations as well. Appreciate you stopping by. Have a great day.